Is that a breakup?
I think we have a situation right here.
On the Feeling Station.
Hi, Tinta.
People are going to be wondering what is going on. But yes, hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the Feeling Station.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. You have no idea. I'm excited and nervous.
Oh, yeah. For those listening to the podcast for the first time, it's a romantic family and friendship breakout podcast showcasing stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give you lessons from their experiences. And I hope you find today's story entertaining, but more importantly, meaningful. The podcast is popular for two main reasons. One being I do my best to keep you anonymous. So I'm going to give you the name that you're going to use for the duration of this episode. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
Cool. Your name is from North Africa, Algeria, to be specific.
Okay.
And the name is Nazim, which is Nasim.
Nasim.
M for mother. Yeah, Nasim or Mike.
S-I-M.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what that means is breath of fresh air.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You know,
That's a beautiful name.
yeah, for me, the meaning is very real, because this year feels like a breath of fresh air.
It really does.
And-
it feels like fresh new start.
Exactly. And I hope it feels the same for you too. So that's the name that you're going to use. And what name are you giving the person that you're talking about on the episode today?
So the name I decided to give my ex is Rosa. It's based on her favorite artist, Rosalia. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so this is a story about Nasim and Rosa.
Yep.
And the second reason why the podcast is popular is the real life lessons that people learn from the experience that you had and the story that you're going to share. So, you got any lessons for me?
I got a couple, but I'm sure there might be some that come out later on.
Yep.
But the first one is never feel bad for choosing yourself.
Ooh, I like that a lot.
The second one is older doesn't always mean wiser. Emotional maturity doesn't come from age. It comes from confronting your problems and working on them.
Hey. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Because the underlying assumption is the older you are, the wiser you are, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's important for the young girls out there who like to date people older than them thinking they're mature. But I've met 20-year-olds that are more mature than some 40-year-olds I've met. So age doesn't mean anything unless you're dealing with your problems. The third lesson is, can I swear on this?
Yep.
I do.
As much as you want.
Okay, awesome. The third lesson is don't fuck around and find out.
Nah. Sorry, before you go on, the reason why I'm laughing like this is my motto for this year. And I was telling a group of, so I got these two really good friends of mine, and we got a group together, right? And as I was saying to them, guys, the motto for this year is fuck around and find out, right?
Yeah.
Because honestly, for real, if you do fuck around, you will find out. So when you say don't fuck around and find out, it hits very, very close to me, right? So okay, so you're gonna finish up. It's fuck around. So don't fuck around and find out.
Yeah, don't fuck around and find out. Listen to your gut the first time. The evidence will reveal itself later. Those little problems you ignore in the beginning will always be the reason you end up leaving.
Hey.
They will always be the reason you end up leaving.
Yay.
So don't fuck around and wait and find out.
I got a really good friend of mine also who loves that same saying. So I'm gonna point this episode to them and say, hey, listen to lesson number 4. And I know the first thing that's gonna happen is they are literally gonna laugh out.
It's so true though, because like I find us people, like, we like to learn the hard way, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to learn the hard way. Just, it's okay.
Yeah.
My total lessons are 6. So I have 2 more.
So I got 3 here. So never feel bad. Well, that's what it starts. Then older doesn't mean wiser. Then I got don't fuck around and find out. So you should be on number 4.
Oh, number 4. Sorry.
Yeah.
My ADHD.
Uh-huh.
Number 4, know your attachment style and the attachment style of your partner. It will go a very long way in the security of your relationship.
Oh, I like that. Do you know, talking about attachment styles, I don't even know what mine is.
You don't? Oh, you gotta learn that. You gotta learn it. It's really important.
I really have no idea. So what I'm going to do after this episode is go and just Google what attachment styles there are, and I'm guessing they will have certain criteria that you tick, and then it will give you an idea of what your attachment style might be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there's about 4 different types. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on it, but. The main ones are avoidant and anxious attachment styles. Well, these are the 2 attachment styles that are relevant to this story.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
The 5th lesson is you can't love someone when you don't love yourself.
Ooh.
And you can't love, and you can't love someone else when they don't love themselves, if that makes sense.
Yep. 100%.
And the 6th and final lesson is expectation is the killer of all joy. Remove expectations from your relationships and take those people as they are.
I don't know how I feel about that, because if you don't have a level of expectation, how do you know when to quit? So, I all the relationships I've been in, the expectation has been, let's say, consistency in anything.
I feel like those expectations are good to have. I guess unreal, like not explaining your expectations to your partner and just having those expectations of them and them not meeting it, and then it being a problem. Not expressing those expectations early on or when you feel like they need to be addressed is really important.
Yeah.
It'll make sense.
I'm sure it will. I mean, the six lessons is
I'm so sorry. I don't know.
Is no joke. And I like how you referred to the person you're talking about as Rosa. So what kind of relationship was that?
My relationship with her, it was a romantic relationship. It was a very impactful relationship, despite it being one of the shortest relationships I've been in. It was only about 5 months. Yeah, we didn't even make it to 6 months. Because it was my first relationship with a woman. So
it was your first relationship with a woman.
Yeah.
So you've always had relationships with men previously, is that right?
Yeah, like more like, boyfriend and girlfriend. I've been with women before, but like dates and sexually, but I've never actually called someone my girlfriend and us entering like that stage.
Fine.
So, yeah.
Cool. Gotcha. So I'm going to play these back, and I hope I got them right, because they were they were a lot and they're quite long. So lesson number 1, never feel bad for choosing yourself. Lesson number 2, older doesn't always mean wiser. Emotional maturity doesn't come from age, but it comes from confronting your problems and working on them. Lesson number 3, don't fuck around and find out. Listen to your gut the first time. The evidence will reveal itself later. Those little problems you ignore in the beginning will always be the reason you end up leaving.
Period.
Number 4, know your attachment style and that attachment style of your partner. It'll go a very long way in the security of your relationship. Number 5, you can't love someone when you don't love yourself, and you can't love someone else when they don't love themselves. That is very real and true. And then number 6, expectation is the killer of all joy. Remove expectations from your relationships and take people as they are. Cool. Yeah. Let's go into it then, Nazeem. Where did you meet Rosa, and why did you decide, she's the one for me? I mean, you'd already been exploring stuff with women before and had been romantic and sexual with them. Why her in particular to say, this is going to be my girlfriend?
Well, throwback to 4 years ago, I was in a relationship, and that relationship was very, very traumatic. And I made the conscious choice to just be single for a really long time. That was the first time I just had no interest in being in a relationship. So, and that was COVID. So for the past 3 years, I was single and I loved it. I was outside with my friends, having fun, living my best single life. I wasn't really entertaining relationships or any of that. So when I met Rosa, she slid in my DMs actually.
Oh, yeah?
It was just a random day. I think it was like a Sunday. And you follow me on Instagram. I have a bit of a following, so I don't tend to check my DMs that often, especially my requests. Something in me just told me to like check it, and her message was there. And I took a screenshot of her first message to me. And it said, "I don't know if we're a fit, but I'd like to find out. Tell me the first step and I'll take it from there."
Yay! Bars, you know.
Right?
Yeah,
I
man.
was like, who is this? I'm like, energy. I was like, what?
I get why
I've
you'd
never had.
I get why you'd have taken a screenshot as well, because you wanted to remember words like that, right?
And I remember how I was feeling. I was like, who? It just caught my eye because I've never had anyone come with me with this energy. They didn't know if we're a fit, but she's like, I want to find out. Tell me the first step. We'll take it from there. It was giving like leader. It was giving like, I really liked the energy. So I stalked her before I answered, obviously. Went through her page. I was like, okay, she's cute. So I slid in and I'm like, oh, hi, Rosa. That's the first message I said to her. And it kind of went from there. So we started talking for about like a week, about a couple days through Instagram DMs, and just talking about like where we're from. She was, I don't know if I should say this. I don't know. She's Latina. And so she was explaining about like her upbringing. I told her how I'm Zimbabwean. I've been in Canada, just like basic stuff about ourselves. She mentioned that she had been following me for a while on TikTok. I guess like one of my videos popped up on her For You page. I had a viral video that reached like a lot of people, and I guess like it popped up, and that's when she followed me. And she like mentioned how like it was love at first sight, and that how like she wanted to like she just had a mission to like talk to me, and like she just shot her shot. And hindsight 2020, I'm not realizing I'm being love bombed, but like I'm eating that shit up. I'm getting gassed up. I'm like, oh my God, love at first sight. Oh my goodness.
So when you say you're being love bombed, is this with physical items or the words that she was saying and the attention she was paying you?
Her words, like she was really, really good with her words. And I honestly think it's like a Latina thing. They're very like, even like the way they word and phrase things is just very like intense and very like, so I was just like, oh wow, like, I don't know, I really liked it. It really gassed me up. So I was obsessed. I was obsessed. So, yeah, like she was really a fan of like the work I did online, like really praised it. And that was like an issue I had in a previous relationship where like my partner wasn't very supportive of that. They really tried to like restrict me from it. So like, I think a part of me was just really excited that like someone had like romantic interest in me and also praised me for like what I did and took what I did seriously. Yeah, so we started talking for a while, like she, and a week goes by and we decided to FaceTime because we hadn't had talked on the phone. So we exchanged numbers, we FaceTimed, and she had such a pretty smile. She was so beautiful. Like literally, like I remember the first time I saw her, like I had butterflies. Like she had such a nice smile. Like she couldn't stop smiling the whole time. And like, I don't even know what we were talking about. I can't even recall, but like we were talking for like hours. Like I checked the timer and we were on the phone for like 3 hours before we got off the phone.
Wow.
And that's not me. I hate talking to people for a really long time. Like my social battery runs out. So the fact that like I'm like losing time with her, that's a really good sign. Cause like that's usually a sign I see that I'm compatible with someone, even with friends, like people where I'm not too hyper vigilant on like what's going on in the time. Like it's really natural and it flows.
Yo,
so
the first time we spoke, our conversation was 1 minute. So what are you saying about me? No, I'm just messing with you. Just messing with you.
No, Tinto, we're friends. In my head, we've been friends. I've been listening to you for years. You're my host.
Yeah. Okay, now cool. Yeah, go on.
But yeah, like I took that as a sign that like, oh, like we're like really compatible. Like I can talk to her so easily. 2 weeks later, I didn't realize how old she was. So I found out she was 10 years older than me. So
how did you find that out? Did she say?
It just came up and I'm like, why didn't I ask her age? But I guess, I don't know, like it just never came up.
So it just came up in conversation?
Yeah, it just came up in conversation. And I mean, I'm grown, but I'm also in my early 20s. So like, obviously that comes like, I still have a lot of growing to do. But it didn't really bother me because I've dated people older than me before, but not 10 years. So it was a lot, but my experience with dating people older than me is that they tend to treat me like a kid and I hate being told what to do. So that has always been a problem. So when I found out, I really tried to like emphasize that like, if you are entering this situation, like thinking you're going to try and control me or tell me what to do, like you're going to be very disappointed. I really hate that shit. And just like letting them know that like you're accepting me for who I am right now. And that sometimes my age is going to show. I feel like I'm very mature for my age, but sometimes my age is going to show. There's going to be some things where it's just like, but so I really try to like emphasize with her just because.
Not to deviate too far from the point that you're about to make. You said that at some point my age would show.
Yeah.
That you saying that and saying that older people tend to treat me like a kid, and then you say my age was going to show. I'm just trying to understand what your age would have had to do with anything. So how does someone your age behave? For instance,
I guess typically, I mean, we're not in a rush for stuff like marriage, having kids. We're just like, it's like, I'm my age right now. I'm really in a space where I'm like still trying to figure myself out, figuring out what I want to do with my life. And when you tend to date people older than you, I feel like sometimes they already went through that phase and they want to establish more things and they forget that like I'm in a different chapter and that like I need that space and like that time to like figure that out. Like it can work, but like it's important that like they understand that. So I always try to like emphasize that because I like, it's important. I don't want to be in a relationship where I end up being rushed into something. And then 10 years down the line, I'm like, oh my God, like this person took my youth away and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Do you know, I totally get it. I didn't have that context. But when you mentioned what you did about the rush to have children and families, etc., I think it tends to intensify as people approach 40, perhaps, as an example. I know a lot of people I've spoken to, both male and female, who say, okay, as I'm approaching 14, I don't know if someone solid starts getting me feeling a type of way about my ability to have healthy children.
Yeah.
Or having children at all. So I get it now. That I guess I needed just a little more context around that in terms of why it was important. But yeah, thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, and I felt like with her, she's like a hopeless romantic, and like she wants to have kids. She wants to have like, the kids and the white picket fence and like all of that. But like to me, I'm just like those things take time. I want those things too. Like I know there's a lot of women my age that want to be child free. I don't think that's my reality. I feel like it's just like not yet. I feel like I just haven't. I don't have all my stuff together yet for me to, you know, pop up a kid and get married and stuff like that. But like it is my end goal. So like I did tell her that because that is something that she did want. And she was honest with me and told me that like, if that's something that I don't want, like tell her right now. So I told her it is something that I want, but it's just not right now, you know, not anytime soon. And like, you have to be okay with that as well. Yeah. The age thing, and we talked through, I'm going to, I guess, rush through like how we met and everything, but we talked about her upbringing. I only bring this up because it's important in context. So she was raised by her mom and her stepdad. She viewed her stepdad as basically her real dad. Her real dad wasn't in her life. He really wasn't a good guy to her mom. And her stepdad and her mom had 2 daughters. So she has 2 sisters, 2 half sisters. One of her sisters' name, we're going to name her Sky. She was only a year younger than me. So I think that made me more comfortable stepping into it. Cause I'm like, okay, she has another person in her life that's my age. Yeah. So I guess like,
could be relatable. Like
she could relate a little bit. And she really loved her sister. Like she really loves her family. She's very family oriented. But she does have a bit of like, I guess, insecurity with like her placement in her family because her mom and her stepdad, like they had these $2. She viewed them as like, they were like the favorites, and she was obviously like the stepdaughter, and she wasn't a conventional daughter. She was a tomboy growing up, like to play with trucks and like Optimus Prime and like all these things. Like she wasn't a conventional like girly girl, all of that. And didn't like to wear dresses. Like she just presented herself very differently. And I think she always felt like her parents like felt shame about that. So she had like a bit of like insecurity around that, but like she still loved her family like so much and felt loved by them. And a final thing, which is red flag number 1, which I should have clocked, but it's okay because I was already hooked. She told me that she had a violent past. So she I know.
Do you know, if someone is telling you this early doors, I know you said you should have clocked, but you were in too deep.
Yeah.
You were caught up by the words. You literally lapped them all up. Whatever it is that got you hooked must have been so good that
I just liked her as a person. Like I just found her like I'm like, she has such a beautiful soul. She's so misunderstood. So like,
but violent.
I know.
Anyway, go on. Okay, so she mentioned she's violent.
She mentioned she had a violent past. So I told her to elaborate. I told her to elaborate because I grew up in a domestic abuse home.
Right.
And that traumatized me. That's really why I'm the way that I am, because I saw that growing up. So I have a very skewed way of viewing love because 2 people that were taught to me that were loved didn't express love how people express love. They were hitting each other and like doing all these things. So I remember as a kid, I would like tell myself, like, I would not be in a situation like that. If anyone ever puts their hand on me, I'm leaving, I'm dipping. Because I think when I would look at my mom, I'm like, why didn't you just leave? So like, to me, I'm like, if anyone ever puts their hand on me, I'm leaving, period, So I'm like, please elaborate. I'm like, what do you mean by violent past? And she basically told me that she would get into a lot of fights when she was younger. She had ADHD too. I guess hers was a bit worse. And like children with ADHD tend to have like impulse problems. They just kind of react immediately. They don't really think before they act. So like she would get into a lot of fights at school, get like expelled from school a lot from fights, and a lot of it she would just say it was her like defending herself. She only didn't stop fighting until like 3 years ago, and most of the fights weren't even with women, they were with men. And apparently, I guess I'm not really familiar with this because I'm bisexual and I'm also very feminine presenting. So I get, I get treated how most women get treated by like men, some good, some bad. But like she mentioned how like, you know, dykes, which are like mask women, tend to be like targets for men, especially really insecure men who have the idea that are like, you know, since you want to act like a guy so bad, I'm going to treat you like a guy. Right. So like if one story that stood out to me was like she went out with a couple of her friends, and one guy, I guess like shoved one of her friends, and she got super heated and started like fighting the guy. But like to her, she thought like the guy wouldn't fight back because she's a girl. But like because she's like a dyke, literally a dyke, it didn't stop. Like they will fight her. So like she would deal with like a lot of these fights and like a lot of these situations. Like in my head, I'm like, you could have avoided it. Like, why do you want to be in these situations so bad? Like it really was a red flag, and I'm really like disappointed in myself. I didn't clock it, but I'm just like, okay, like she's just like defending herself. But like a lot of these could like be avoided. Like sometimes you walk into those situations, but I think it's really messed up. Like I felt kind of bad that like she got targeted that way. I didn't know that like, you know, lesbians deal with that. Okay. So now before we became official, mind you, this is all 2 weeks. Our relationship happened really fast.
Sorry.
This all happened in the span of 2 weeks. I'm not even kidding.
Wait a minute. When you say this happened in 2 weeks, we're talking about the DM to being told that, you know, I had a violent past.
A lot of trauma dumping. Like we really bonded off that. And I felt like because we were talking about heavy things so fast, it just felt like we were getting close really fast.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
And so now this is week 3. She had to go to a wedding out the country. And I thought, you know, she's going to be out of the country, so she won't be texting me as much, but she wasn't. She was still calling me every now and then, checking in on me, sending pictures on what she was up to. It was really sweet. During one of the days we were talking about, like dating and stuff like that. And I just casually brought up that, like, you know, technically, like, I'm still single. I can still, like, if I were to go on a date, like, I'm allowed to do that. Like, really, I just said it very, like, blasé, like, just like it's like a matter of fact. And immediately she was like, will you be my girlfriend?
Mad thing.
And I'm like, a part of me, like, this is what I mean by the gut. Like something in my like spirit, like was like hesitant, but I remember me just like shutting it off. And I was like, fuck it. Like I already really like this girl. Like she gets me, I get her. So I said, yeah, like we're now dating. We're now girlfriends.
So something in your gut was like, maybe not.
Yeah. Like something like it hesitated a little bit, like in myself. It wasn't like a hell yes, but it was just like, why not? Like we talk every day. We talk for hours at a time. Like we get along really well. Like all of that. So yeah, we started dating, and this is when the first problem happens. So she comes back from the wedding trip and she calls me and she's like, okay, like I need to tell you something. And I'm like, what? And basically she tells me how her ex still lives in her apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, oh, I forgot to leave this out. So her and her ex, they broke up 3 months before we left. So she was only single for 3 months.
Yeah.
So like when she told me this story, I was just like, oh, like, are you healed from this? Like, I have a really weird rule about exes. Like, I don't want to hear about exes.
Yeah,
The second I sense that you have any type of feeling, even if it's anger, that's still too much emotions for an ex, you know? Like, so I asked her, I'm like, oh, like, are you over the situation? Did you heal from the situation? She was like, yeah, like, it was basically over before it was over. So I'm like, okay. And I think because of like us getting along, I just kind of brushed it off. So when she told me that her ex still lived at the house, I was like, I got really mad. I was like, what do you mean the ex? I'm like, you live with your ex? She's like, no, like she's like, well, we broke up so suddenly. She's trying to find her lease. And like, I didn't want to be like an asshole and like just kick her out. So like, she's just been staying at the apartment until like she finds her own place. So I'm like, okay, where have you been staying? And she's like, oh, I've just been like staying at my mom's. And she is very like privileged. She grew up in she has a really big house, a really nice house. So she was telling the truth because I would FaceTime her and she would be at her mom's house. And she has her own space and stuff like that. So like occasionally she would stop by the apartment and grab some of like clothes or whatever that she needs and go. But I just like, I found it really weird. So I'm like, why hasn't she, like, I guess I was confused why she didn't tell me this early on.
Yeah.
Like why it wasn't at like, it just really confused me. Like she could tell I was really upset about it. So she's like, I'll do like anything. Like if you want me to like kick her out, like I'm like, I don't want to tell you to do whatever. If this is what you think is best, whatever. But like, I just like, I find it really weird that your ex is still living in the apartment with you. And also like the fact that like she basically framed her ex to be this really messed up person. So like it just didn't make sense to me why like she was like doing her ex like this favor, because she wasn't they were going half on rent, but she wasn't living in the apartment anymore. So I'm like, she's also like still not like, it didn't make any sense to me. Yeah. So we got over that. Well, I got over it because I just didn't want to like continue talking about the ex, but it ends up like coming up. Like there'll be times where like the ex doesn't, cause like they're still in the process of a breakup, and like I'm not like clocking that like she should have dealt with this before she even got with me. Like I don't think it was fair for me to be like she should have came with all those things like settled. Do you know what I mean? Like, so like they're like going through like finances and all these things they shared like while they were living together, because they dated for 5 years, and like she's with me and I'm really uncomfortable with the situation, but I'm not like speaking up against it because like I know she likes me, I know we're together, and I know she has no interest in her ex. So I don't know, Tinto. I don't know. I can't even really rationalize why I was okay with that.
I mean, especially after you said that, if you catch any whiff of somebody still having some kind of emotion, whether it's anger or whatever, it was enough for you to be like, hey, this ain't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
So at this point, you've had two things that have been brought to the fore that you're not really comfortable with. One, the fact that she has been violent in the past, and you've been raised in a situation that had domestic violence all over it. That wasn't your cup of tea. And this emotional issue is not your cup of tea either. So you got two major things that affect you as an individual in your face.
Yeah.
And I know now we're looking in hindsight, you probably might have a bit more info on why that may have been.
Yeah.
What do you think that was?
I think I was already a part of me was like, I got in the relationship really fast. So like, I felt like I also had to just like prove to myself and to like my friends that I told them about her that like I did the right thing. Like, of course, like, so like if I were to like be like, oh, never mind, like, and leave so early, like I felt some type of shame towards that.
So does that mean they had said something to you beforehand, like you're moving too fast and you didn't listen to them?
They did. They were like, Nasim, they're like, you don't think you're like moving a bit too fast? And I'm just like, I mean, we like, to me, I'm like, no, we get along. I'm like, you don't get it. Like lesbians have these thing called, there's this term that lesbians have where like the relationships move so fast because in heterosexual relationships, what is it called? Oh my,
I don't know. But whatever it is, you had that thing to say, hey, you know,
it's called U-hauling. It's called U-hauling.
U-hauling.
So like, yeah, like you will see it, like a lot of like women with women relationship, they tend to move really fast. Like 2 months in, they're already living with each other, and search it up. It's a crazy phenomenon. And basically it's like the idea that like usually in heterosexual relationships, it's usually the woman that like wants, it's usually like the woman that wants to progress the relationship. So when there's two girls that are on the same page, like you're like, why not? So like, I'm like, you guys don't get it. You guys are straight. Like we get each other.
Yeah, I get it. Like, you know, I've just had to look it up, and you guys have U-Haul out there, right? Mm-hmm. So they say that U-hauling is an expression that is stereotypical of a lesbian relationship, referring to the idea that lesbians tend to move in together after a really short period of time, which suggests that they have an extreme inclination towards commitment to relationships very, very fast. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's what you were now using to justify what was going on, even though you knew within your gut that, hey, I am moving faster than I need to.
Yeah.
And I got a point to prove.
Yeah, I was just trying to prove to myself. I'm like, we're U-hauling. I'm like, we just, you know, you don't get it. So a part of me just didn't want to cut it so short after just being so vocal and excited about it to my friends. And also like she was just doing a lot of good things outside of that like that little, well, it wasn't little, it was big, that it was easy to forget that. Like this woman would write me poems. She would, I remember the first time I accidentally called her like with my actual phone instead of FaceTiming her, and I had a $300 charge for long distance call.
Yo.
And yeah, and I was like panicking, and she just immediately sent me the money. And like, she's like, no, crazy. Yeah, she just took it out. Like she was just very giving. She would do a lot of romantic gestures. Like she lived, I don't know if I told you, but she lived in a different country. She lived in the States, and she would like random times send me flowers. Like just, she was very like romantic and like giving and like all these things. And so like when these problems would happen, I was just like, well, at least like, you know, she's like good in like these other aspects, which are things. Yeah. So it was easy to just like look, push to the side. Yeah. Which is why the lesson of like, don't fuck around and find out, but it's okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we've been dating for about a couple weeks now. So I did tell her that like, if I am going to do a long distance relationship, my condition is that I have to see you every 2 months, like nothing more and nothing less. And
why
that
2
means
months?
like,
that's very specific.
Because 3 months is too long. I'm not waiting 90 days.
And 1 month is too short.
I mean, 1 month, I could do 1 month. I would prefer it, but like, you know, finances, you know, it's still expensive to book flights and all of that. Yeah. So I'm like, at the very least, every 2 months, that's something I can do, like book a flight to see her. She can book a flight to see me. Like it has to be every 2 months or like it won't be able to work out. One of my love languages is physical touch. So if I go too long without it,
without being touched, It's a problem.
It's a problem. So that was like really important for me. So we spoke about meeting for the first time. And really my expectation for meeting her the first time was just to see if she's the same person that she is online, if there's any red flags, even though there were already a couple red flags I ignored. If like, if the person I've been talking to for these couple weeks is the person, I want to be with. That was my expectation. I wasn't expecting us to like do too much activities. I really just want to like get to know her, spend time with her, hug her, like do all these things. And she booked the flight. I was super nervous because it was also my first time traveling out the country by myself. I was super nervous because I was like, what if I get the ick and I'm stuck there? Like, I don't know. I was really nervous. But when I met her, like the second I saw her at the airport, like I felt like relief. Like I was like, oh my God, this is my girlfriend. I was like, I finally get to see her. Like we hugged for a really long time. She was so nervous. Like she was like, she was like sweating. Like she was so nervous. And we had like a really good couple hours when I landed. Now, again, like she always did the most. And like in hindsight, I really think it was just like a distraction to like keep me around or like to use later to make me stay, to me to forget the bullshit, if that makes sense. So she would do like a lot of like external stuff for me to like ignore, like the red flags.
But what do you mean when you say external stuff? External stuff like what?
Like the first day I came, she booked a photo shoot for me. So she hired a photographer, bought me a dress, and had a whole photographer to do a photo shoot because I really liked modeling. And that was the first time I met her. Like this was the first night. And I was like, to me, I was like, that's sweet. But I'm also like, I don't know. It was really sweet because like I model, like it was a lot of that, but like I think to her it was like, oh, like she would think this is really nice, like I'm doing the most for her, like no one has ever done something like this for her, like that, so that like if anything comes out later, like I remember these things, these gestures.
So
but
the way you described that she would do external stuff to shift focus on the real things that mattered makes me feel like there was a difference between external stuff that happened and internal stuff that happened between you two. I'm guessing the internal stuff is all the poetry, all the good gestures with words, her being expressive.
Yeah, like
just
those
guessing.
were. Yeah, those were like the good things, but also like I do like any person I've ever dated, like I do require them to be like, like to care about me. Like I don't want to have to like beg for flowers and stuff like that. Those things already come naturally. Like I don't walk around with an expectation of those things because gift giving to me is really last on my priority list with love languages. Like I don't receive love from that because in the past, like people have used that as manipulation. Like my dad, for an example, when he literally after he would hit my mom, the next day he'll come home with gifts. So like I never viewed it as like love, if that made sense. Like I was getting connection from her from like us talking about our feelings, us sharing stuff. Like that's really how like I fell in love with her. And I felt like she felt like for me to love her, she had to like do these things or that like if I talk to her longer, I'll figure out certain things and leave. I really don't know to this day, I still don't know what it was doing. I think a part of it was like love bombing and also like overcompensating when she really didn't need to, if that made sense.
Yeah, well, kind of. So, not to dwell on this too much, her doing this stuff like the photo shoot, which was in line with what you really enjoyed, and I
Yeah.
think and I think you've said you like that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Were you associating that with receiving gifts, which is the love language that's at the bottom of your list?
I was like,
I'm trying to understand why you use the expression she would do external stuff. I guess I just don't understand what you mean when you say external stuff. That's all I'm asking. That's what I'm saying.
I think for me, like, it made me like, when people, I guess like maybe this is my trauma response, when people do too many good things or like do too much for me, like I question it immediately, especially when it's so fast. Cause I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing that? Like, what are you hiding? If that makes sense.
Okay.
But in the moment, because it's my first time meeting her, like I'm not really deeping all of that. I'm like, this is really sweet. I did think it was like a lot, like just I thought it was a lot. I'm really shy. I have anxiety. So I'm like, oh my God, like now I'm gonna be posing and all of that in front of her. But like we had like it was really fun. Like we took pictures together.
Yeah.
But it was a really like she would do like a lot of really big gestures for me. That for someone like I've met for such a short period of time, I think because of how long we've known each other, it just really like confused me, because like in the past when people have done those things.
How long had it been at this point?
At that point, it's only been a month and a month and like 2 weeks maybe. So I was just like, you booked a photo shoot, you bought me a dress. Like it was sweet. It was sweet. I really liked it. I was like, okay, like this was like a really like nice gift. Now, originally I just wanted this like trip to be really like chill, honestly. I'm like, maybe we'll go like on a couple of dinner dates and but like I really just want to like spend time with her. But like she planned everything down to the day. We went to Disneyland, and I've never been to Disney. Like she really just wanted me to have like such a good time, and I thought it was like the sweetest thing that like she just wanted me to have like a good time, show me things like I never seen before and stuff like that. It was really nice. It was a really cute trip. Like we took pictures and all of those things. Like I felt really like spoiled. Like I didn't have to like worry about anything. Like I brought spending money, so I could like buy, my family like souvenirs and like all that stuff. But I didn't touch my wallet. I think I spent like $20 the whole trip.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was like really sweet. And mind you, she really didn't have to like do that. Like, but I think also like sometimes just, I guess, based on how I present myself online, people assume like I need those things or like I expect those things. But I really already like loved her. Like I was already like accepting so many of her red flags and like without her having to do anything. So yeah, so the trip happened. I was only there for like 4 days. It went really well. Like I could breathe, because I was like, my big worry was that like, oh, it was just like an online relationship and she's like weird in real life. But it wasn't the case. It was honestly better than I expected it to be. So that was in July, and then August happened. Her birthday was in September. So for like a couple weeks, everything was good when I came back. Like we were just like a regular couple. We would have FaceTime dates every Friday. When I came back from the trip, this is July now. Everything was good. Like we were just like in love, such a cute couple. Like we were already saying I love yous and all of that. It was a really, really good relationship. Like anytime like I was like stressed, anxious, she would just like affirm me and stuff like that. But one thing like I was starting to realize was that like she didn't really know how to be like alone, if that made sense. Like, and for me, and this is why attachment styles is important, because I'm a person, I have an avoidant attachment style. So like I recharge when I'm alone, and she's the opposite. She recharges when she spends time with people, when she's around people. And her being by herself for too long. I think it gives her anxiety. So I think I was starting to notice like little patterns with that.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, because, she's my girlfriend and I really loved her, like I felt like I was like overcompensating. So I was no longer like spending alone time with myself, which is something I really needed because it started like affecting everything else in my life. Like I was like neglecting my friends because I didn't have the emotional battery to even like talk to other people, because like I would spend like 3 hours talking to her on the phone, and like I wasn't taking time for content creating and stuff like that because I was just like using that time to recharge. So it was slowly starting to take a really big toll on me, and I didn't know how to express that to her. And a part of me felt like if I did express it to her, like she would get like upset.
Right.
And because she was very emotional, which is like when you see us, it's like a contradiction. Like you would think I'm more of the emotional one in the relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just tend to like keep things in most of the time. So also during this period, she was talking about marriage a lot. She would like show me like a Pinterest board that she made of like marriage, like of like a detail like of how she wants her marriage to, like her wedding to look like, the theme of her wedding. And I remember I'm like, oh, like that's really cool. I'm like, oh, I haven't even like thought about what my wedding would look like. And like it would bother her when I would say stuff like that, or if I would be like, oh, like I'm not really thinking about that anytime soon, or like maybe in a couple years, or me saying stuff like that, it would really bother her. And one day we were talking about like kids, and I was like, yeah, like I jokingly said, oh, I have no business having a kid right now. And she's like, do you have like commitment issues or something? Like she just snapped at me, and I'm like, what do you mean? Do I have commitment issues? I'm like, no. She's like, then why are you saying like you don't see yourself having kids? I'm like, Rosa, I'm 23.
Yeah. You like now I get the age thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it now.
So I'm like, I'm 23. I'm like, I don't know. Like to me, like when me and my friends talk about kids, like it's really like a haha kiki when we talk about it. It's like not even in our realm of possibility. So I'm just like, I'm sorry. Like I didn't know like it was like such a sensitive like topic, but like you do know like that's not something I'm thinking about right now. And she's like, what is it? Like, do you just have like commitment issues or blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, no, I don't have any commitment issues. It's just, I'm still in school. I'm still trying to figure myself out. I grew up in a really like tough upbringing. Like we didn't have much growing up. Like my mom struggled a lot. So like I don't want to bring anybody into the world until I can give them the world. You know, like
yeah.
So like me thinking I can't even picture bringing a kid right now. Like so. And she's like, but I can like work for us. I can do all these things, but I'm like, it's not just you. Like, I don't want to depend on you, if that makes sense. Like, I want to have something for myself. Like, I want my child to be, I want to be able to tell my kid what I was doing, to like tell them I was doing things. I was making moves when I was younger, you know, like, I don't want to be like, oh, when my kid asked me like, oh, what were you doing when you were younger? I was like, oh, I just married. And I want to be like, oh, I was modeling. I started a business. I want to be that type of parent. And like, I have nothing to tell them that yet. If I'm like out here just like moving that fast. And that was really important for me. So we had like a really big fight about that. She started, and I noticed anytime like I would say stuff that didn't really align with her, like she would use her emotions a lot to like make me feel bad. And it would work because I'm also young, and like I don't know, like emotions to me. Like it really like does affect like how I respond to things. So she would like cry sometimes and be like, "You don't care about me," and like just use these like really big words. So like I would feel really bad. So like I would stop. I would just like eventually be like, okay, like I guess like maybe in 5 years, it went from I don't see myself having kids anytime soon to like maybe 4 years I'll have kids. But deep down, I'm like 4 years, like I don't know.
Yeah.
But like to me, I'm like, okay, I'm like that's a like happy medium. Like maybe 3 years, like I'll be like, like that'll make sense. So I was like already like compromising parts of myself to just like make her happy. And then yeah, it was a problem. So fast forward to September, it's her birthday. I decided to fly down there for her birthday. I paid for the flight this time because why are you paying for me to see you for your birthday?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm coming down there. She's like, it's so expensive right now. I'm like, no, I'm coming to see you. Like, so I booked the flight. I planned stuff to do. I'm not really familiar with her city. So like I looked for stuff to do, booked reservations and stuff like that, just to like make sure we have like a good time for her birthday. So during that week that I was staying there, it was my first week of school. So I missed my first week of school for that. But it was okay because like usually the first week of school, you're not really going too deep into things. So I allowed it because I'm like, okay, I get to see my girlfriend. It was fine.
Yeah.
The trip was good. We had a really good time. But on the final day, her mom called her and she like went out the door to talk to her mom. She was gone for like 30 minutes and she came back and basically said how her ex called her mom really upset, saying that she didn't know that Rosa was in a relationship. And basically I was like, how does she know you're in a relationship? Because she's never posted me. I posted a little bit of her.
You sure did.
I did.
I definitely remember seeing that. Very briefly though.
Yeah, I posted like a little bit of her and apparently she saw through her like credit card payments that she bought like a hotel at Disney or something. Then that made her investigate to go through her Instagram likes, and then she found my Instagram and saw the video that I made when like she took me to Disney. And I'm like, and the way she explained it was so fast. I was like, whoa. I'm like, how does she have access to your
I was just about to
credit
ask.
card?
I was just about to ask that same question.
I'm like, how does she have access? She's like, oh, like we shared this thing. We just like never. I'm like, stop. Now you're gonna piss me off. Like, I'm like, what do you mean? She had like, you guys are still sharing. She's like, she's just going through a hard time and this and that and blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, like I'm not happy with this. I'm like, first of all, I'm like, don't embarrass me like this. Like the fact that like I'm out here even posting you, which is something I don't do. Like I always tell people, if you see a guy on my page, it's an ad. Like I'm not posting. The fact I'm posting about you, talking about you to like my friends and loved ones, and like you're still so connected to your ex really bothers me. Like I can't continue this relationship if she's still like around this much. And also like I think it bothered me that like her ex had like a connection with her mom. Like why is she able to still call your mom?
So,
and like
so it was true that the phone call was from the mom, because I wasn't sure whether that was from the mom or it was from the ex. It was definitely from the mom.
Yeah,
and the mom had spoken to
mom.
the ex, so the mom was passing on a message about the ex.
Yeah, and her mom was like, she was really upset. I'm like, why is she still so comfortable? Like it just really,
and
like it really bothered me. Like
and did the mom know about you now?
Yeah, the mom knows about me. The mom knows like she's in a relationship. She just never met me. Also the like I mean I wanted to like meet her, maybe say hi, like but we weren't ready for that. And also
who's we?
She did
you and Rosa?
Yeah, me and Rosa. And also, like, I wasn't comfortable because she didn't tell her mom my age. Like, and I'm not walking in through a lie, like pretending like I'm someone. I'm like, you haven't even told them how old I am. Like, I don't know why you're like keeping that from them, you know? Like,
And how old
so
was her ex? What was the age gap between the two?
the age gap, I think it was only like 2 years. She was
Oh,
2 years younger.
right,
So like
yeah.
there were age mates.
Mm.
So I think also because like her family knows she moves really fast. They didn't approve her last relationship either. They were very much against that relationship too because they moved in really fast. The U-hauling thing, they moved in like
yeah.
2 months in, but it worked out because they dated for 5 years. It was not a healthy relationship, but they, they dealt with that. So when she called, she was really upset. I'm like, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm like, I'm done hearing about the ex. I don't want to hear about her anymore. She told me the lease was ending September anyways. So I'm like, once this lease has ended, there should be no reason why your ex should still be around. I'm like, I'm so serious. Like, I will leave you. Cause I don't want to be embarrassed like that. Like, I don't want any other woman to ever feel like they have like a one up on me, like thinking they have some type of emotional connection, like with my partner. Like I would never put any partner I'm with through that. Like when I leave relationships, they're gone. Like I would never entertain or talk to an ex and like make my partner, feel that way. So like it just wasn't fair for me because I know I wouldn't do that. So she's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, the lease is going to be ending. Like it will be done. Yeah. So we got over that. I went back home to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when the end of the relationship really started. Shit started crumbling because now school has started. I don't have 2 hours to like just casually talk on the phone during the week every week.
Oh, yeah,
I don't.
Was she working, by the way?
Yeah, she worked from home.
Okay.
So, and we had like a 2 hour time difference, which isn't that bad, but like she was like always like available, So, when school started, I didn't have the time that I had before during the summer. Like I couldn't drop everything to just talk to her and do all these things. Like I had school, I had work, and I was really falling off my social media. And like, how social media is, you have to be consistent or the algorithm will just fuck with you. So I'm like, I need to like prioritize that, which means I need to, spend time with that too. I'm still going to like spend time with you and do all that, but I really need to like stress like these things are important for me too. And she's like, yeah, sure, like it's fine. A part of me knew like it was gonna be a problem. Like I just knew it was gonna be a problem because she just would get really upset anytime I would spend time away from her. So I was like, okay, like let's just see how it goes. It didn't go well. She would like catch attitudes when I would spend time at the library. Like sometimes after classes, like I would spend 2-3 hours at the library before I came home. And she would be like, you don't care about me. And mind you, she's not expressing these feelings like, oh, like I feel hurt when you do this. Like she's crying. She's like, you don't love me. You don't care about me. I do all these things for you. Like I drop everything for you and you don't like spend enough time for you. Like I don't like, I have to like beg and like do all these things. And I'm feeling like shit because I'm like, I don't know how I can like juggle all of this, but like I'm really am trying my best. I'm feeling like I am giving her like a proper amount of time.
Yeah.
But
as much as you could, given what else you had going on. Yeah.
Yeah, as much as I could. And like that's really all like I could ask for her. Cause like if vice versa, like I didn't have those expectations of her. If she was busy and the only time she could give me that day was 2 hours, like that's effort to me. But I think for her, wanted me to be she wanted me to be like her world. Like she wanted me to drop everything for her, do everything for her. And like that's just like not realistic. I don't like, for me, I can't be in a relationship dynamic like that because I don't think it's really healthy. An example of this was one day, it was during the weekend. I called her like I normally do. And I'm like, I'm going to head in the shower and I'll call you after I shower. I finish my shower, I call her. She doesn't pick up. She's walking her dog. So my friend Bella, we'll call her Bella. She calls me. So I pick up because I haven't been talking to her for a really long time. Like I've been really neglecting my friends with this relationship because like I genuinely couldn't. The amount of time she required out of me like made like other things in my life like not
come to a halt pretty much.
Yeah. So when my friend Bella called me, I answered. I'm like, oh my God, we were catching up. We were on the phone for about an hour. While we were on the phone, she finally calls me back and I text her. I'm like, hey, can I call you back? I'm on the phone with my friend. Like, I'll call you when I get off the phone. She's like, okay. Catches an attitude. She gets so mad at me. She's like, I would never do that. She's like, if you were to call me and I was on the phone with my friend, I would hang up the call and answer. I'm like she gets so upset, like irrationally upset, starts crying again. You don't care about me. You don't love me. And mind you, when she tells me these things, I know I sound really calm. I think it's because I've been so desensitized. Like I would cry. Like I would cry while she's telling me these things. Like I would feel bad. Cause I'm like, no, I don't no, I care about you. I love you. Like I would have to like reassure her, write her paragraphs, like how much I love her, how much I care about her. And that like, I haven't talked to my friends. I have to like over explain myself for these things. And then she's like, I just don't understand. Like I would drop the call. And I'm like, was the call important? I'm like, if something was important, I would drop the call immediately, but like you just wanted to talk to me.
Yep.
And like, like I was going to call you back. So like, I don't understand why you're getting upset at me. And usually after she would have these like breakdowns, she would apologize later and was like, okay, I was tripping. I'm sorry. But like, it was so intense that like, it really would like emotionally overwhelm me. And this is what I mean by like emotional attachment. I have an avoidant attachment style. Like too much emotional intensity is a lot for me. And I tend to shut down when I'm faced with those things. And with people with anxious attachment styles, that can be very overwhelming for them when they have like abandonment issues or whatever. But like sometimes like I just need like space to like breathe. Like sometimes I can't. Like if you aren't able to like communicate your needs to me, like I guess calmly or in a calm way, like I'm okay with taking a break and you telling me later. Cause like me, when my emotions are heightened, like I don't like, my misery doesn't like company. I really like to take time to like breathe before I say anything. And I find that like in past relationship that it only works with other avoidants. People who like to like talk about things in the heat of the moment, like they hate that. They hate that so much. And it really bothered her, but like it was what I needed for me to feel like sane, because I would shut down and it would emotionally overwhelm me. I would be crying, I'll be stressed, like heart beating, because like I'm so like emotionally like backed up and I can't even like think or come up with like my thoughts. And meanwhile, we're just fighting because I didn't pick up the phone. So like it just was a lot. It was just a lot. And yeah, so the next red flag is my reading week. So for uni students, there's usually like a week break you have just to like study before midterms. So during this reading week, like I had the entire week of school, but that didn't mean I couldn't study. So I was just like working. So I was not doing really good at school. I was honestly having a really difficult time adjusting back to school because I took a year off school. So like just figuring out my schedule and like work, and now that I'm in a relationship, all of that, like it was really hard to figure out when is the proper time to study. And then whenever I did take a long time to study, like she wasn't she didn't like it. Like she would cry and stuff like that. So like I was having a really difficult time. So when midterms came, I knew that like I couldn't fail these midterms or I'm gonna fail my classes. So like I really was prioritizing studying during the weeks during that week. So I think to her, she thought because I wasn't in school anymore that like I now can be on the phone with her for like 4 hours. But I'm like, no, like I'm not doing good in school because of like everything. So like I really need to study. We had a really big fight, that I wasn't like prioritizing her, that I wasn't spending time with her. She's like, you had a week off school and like you've just been doing other things. Like I feel like I have to like beg for you to like spend time with me. I'm like, I was on the phone with you for 3 hours before. Like, I'm like, I do need to study. Like, I really think deep down, she didn't want me like away from her. She didn't like when I wasn't like away, or she didn't know what I was doing. I think it really like stressed her out.
Yeah.
But like, I can only like accommodate to that so much. And like, because I was accommodating to that, I was like suffering because like I wasn't performing well in my classes, and like it's making me depressed because I'm not having time to like recharge and all of those things. So we had a really big fight about that. I see a therapist every 2 weeks, and like I was telling my therapist about it, and he made a comment that said people with like anxious attachment styles and avoidant attachment style, they tend to attract each other because like they're the opposite, but it always ends up breaking because the person with the anxious attachment styles, that they're always going to need more. And even when you feel like you're giving more, like it's not going to be enough because like they don't have that within them. They're going to need it. Like what they need within themselves, they're going to always seek it outside of themselves, and they're always going to need more. And like he basically was saying like it's not going to work out. And I remember I was like, no, you're wrong. Like we talk through things, but I think I was just like really in denial. But like that fight was really overwhelming because like I'm sitting outside the library hearing her like cry, bawl, why I don't care about her before I have to step in the library to study.
Oh my days. It wasn't helping you at all in terms of your academics.
It wasn't. And the thing is, like, it would be before I have to like do these important things. So like during my midterms, she called me literally 30 minutes before I was supposed to go, crying that I don't care about her. And now I'm like distressed and thinking about it during my exams, and I'm not performing well. And it just like, it started like not making any sense to me. Like, because I was like really like unhappy. And also to me, like hearing that I'm not treating someone good, like I don't want to do that. Like I'm not here to make your life harder, to hurt your feelings. So to me, I'm like, if that's the case, then why am I here? You know? So like I start to feel like maybe it's me, like maybe I'm the problem. I just don't know how to love. Like it was really starting to like get to me. And yeah, so after all that, her grandma died. So her grandma died literally the same week I had these midterms. Her grandma died on a Monday. So I had my first midterm on that Monday. So she called me in the morning. She's like, my grandma died. I was so sad for her because she loved her grandma.
Yeah. You did say she was family oriented.
She loved her grandma, and like she was so sad. So I remember like I called her while I was driving to school. I called her during my breaks at work. I called her like that whole day. Like I was just checking in on her. Tuesday, I thought everything was good. I again was calling her every day, like during the day, just to see how she is. She randomly texted me. She's like, "Did you wish my family your condolences?" And I was like, no, I was planning on hitting up your sister because I followed her sister, her younger sister, on Instagram. And I was like, I was planning on messaging her later this week, but I didn't want to message her right away because I don't, like it's still so fresh. She doesn't really know me like that. Like I don't know, I guess the etiquette for stuff like that. So I was like, I was planning on hitting up your sister and just like wishing her well, like this week. She's like, you weren't gonna message my mom? And I'm like, no. No, but could you please like send your condolences to her, like to her and your dad, like your whole family? And she's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. That shouldn't be something. She's like, that shouldn't be something I have to like do for you. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then she's like, and like, meanwhile, like for her, like she just like she always wanted me to like I guess rush things. She wanted me to, even though she's never told her family my age. When I came down there, she didn't want me to meet her mom right away, but she wanted me to like follow her mom and like do these big gestures to her family, I guess, to prove that like I liked her, but like I wanted to move slow. We weren't dating for that long. Like I wanted it to be organic. And I think with the death of her grandma, she wanted, and maybe it's really fucked up to say, but I think she wanted that as an excuse for me to like do those things. I'm like, I'm not really comfortable messaging your mom one-on-one, but like, please let her know, like my condolences, like for her losing her mom. Like, I know she's probably going through like a hard time right now. And she's like, I'm not going to say it to her. You should be able to say it to her. Then I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just not comfortable with that. She starts crying. I don't care about her. I don't love her. All these things. And again, like I'm feeling bad because like now you're involving death, like using this to like make me feel like I'm like this really shitty person because I don't want to hit up your mom. Like it just like it didn't make any sense. And this is when like I asked my friends about it and they said maybe it's like a cultural thing. I know I don't want to say all Zimbabweans do that, but like what I've seen is that like we don't really talk directly through the family. Like we talk through our partner to the family.
Yeah.
So like I'm not really used to hitting up parents in general one-on-one. So like I tried to explain that to her and like she just wasn't getting it.
It's a layer of respect, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm really not comfortable, but I'm like, if you don't want to tell your mom, like, I wish my condolences, then that's a choice you're making. She starts crying. Again, this is the day of my midterm. I have to go take it in like a couple minutes.
Gosh.
She's crying. And
there was very little empathy in terms of what might be going on within your space with how you're feeling about your exams, because exam period is very daunting for most people.
It is. It was really stressful, especially like for me, like, cause like I was like already like struggling, and like, it's just like, I felt like in that moment, like, because she literally just lost her grandma, like I couldn't be like, you're being selfish right now. So like, I just had to like sit there and take it and hear her cry. And like, while I'm crying, feeling bad, and like, even being like, I gotta go, she just expected me to like sit there on the phone and like hear it. I was like 30 minutes late to my exam while all of this happened. And I call her back like after work in my exams. She's still on it. And I'm like, listen, like, this is not healthy. Like, this is not working. She's like, I just don't get it. Like, she's still arguing. And in the heat of the moment, I broke up with her. I literally broke up with her. I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do this. And she like paused. She stops crying. And she's like, are you serious? I'm like, yes, I can't. I'm like, I'm literally having an anxiety attack. I'm like, this is too much for me. Like, I'm so sorry you lost your grandma. Like, but like, this is like not fair for me. Like, I can only do so much, like, as a person. I'm like, if I lost my mom, like, God forbid, I would not expect you to be hitting up my sister. I would not have these expectations of you. And even if I did have those expectations, I wouldn't express them to you in this way, in this moment, like the way you do. Like, I feel like the way she expressed her needs was very unhealthy and very like emotionally
manipulative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it would break me. And I think it also, like, with my age to play, I felt like she thought she could get away with that because like I am younger. But like, to me, I'm like, you're in your 30s. Like, you, like, there's no way this is how you like deal with your emotions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I broke up with her. She was like, are you really gonna break up with me the day before my grandma's wake?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry. She starts crying, bawling, like wailing, crying on the phone. So I feel bad. I take her back. Fast forward to my birthday. She comes down to Canada. I told her she had planned to come to Canada for my birthday for a while now. I told her, we're going through too much right now. We just got back together after breaking up. I think we should cancel this trip. I'm like, the only reason for us, for us to continue, I really think you should start going to therapy. We should maybe do couples therapy, because like, if the relationship continues on like this, I don't think I can stay in this relationship. And then she's like, okay, we can do therapy, but like, don't cancel your birthday. Like, we already planned so much for you for your birthday. And I'm like, I was hesitant for her to come down to Canada. She ends up coming. It was a disaster. Like, she got to meet my friends and it went well. Like, one of my friends pulled me to the side and she was like, they could sense they could sense that she like operated like in a very like anxious, like she operated just off like anxiety a lot. And like, and they were just like really like concerned like for me. And she had planned one of the nights out for us to go to the club, like after my birthday dinner. She got like she rented out like a limo service, a party bus service. Yeah, like a party bus service and all of that for like all my friends, and it was really fun. And we had fun at the club, and apparently the party bus was supposed to come back and pick us up and drop us off, but like it was nowhere to be found. And like, I could tell like she was like getting very like angsty, like very like heated. So she like disappears, and like, mind you, it's 2 a.m. Some of my friends already went home, Ubered home.
Yeah.
It was just me, my sister, and my friend Bella. That's her nickname. And they're like, where is Rosa? And I'm like, I don't know. So I'm walking around the club. I look outside and she's outside on the phone. So I'm like, babe, I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm trying to find the party bus. They said they were supposed to pick us up. And I'm like, do they know they were supposed to pick us up? And she's like, Nasim, like very like stern with me. Right. She's like, why the fuck? She was like, why the fuck would I be outside if I didn't like think they were supposed to come back to pick us up? I'm like, first of all, don't talk to me like that. Like, don't talk to me like that. I'm asking you a question. It's 2 a.m. At this point, like, we can handle this in the morning. Like, show them screenshots of when you were calling them that they were nowhere to be found. I'm here as a witness. Like, we can deal with this in the morning. It's 2 a.m. People were drinking. Like, you're getting very heated. And like, the party bus experience, like, it wasn't that good. Like, the driver was very like, he was giving racist vibes, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Like, we were playing like our Afro beats, like our hip hop music, and he just wasn't vibing. He just wanted us to get the fuck out, like you can tell. And like the party bus wasn't even clean. Like he just wasn't very accommodating. So that was already like really annoying for her. And like she paid extra for them to come back. So like I understood her frustration with that. But also, like, it's 2 a.m. They're not here. And like, we can deal with this in the morning. So I'm like, let's call an Uber. Like, my sister is here. Like, Bella's here. Like, let's just go home. Bella was supposed to like stay in our Airbnb because she was like leaving the next day because she lives outside the city. So I'm like, let's just go. So I convince her to, after she's talking to me crazy, very stern, like I could tell like something was about to happen. Like she just like couldn't control her emotions. Like, I don't know. So I'm like, let's call the Uber. So she calls the Uber and it's this brown guy. And he tells her like, she tells her that like, it's just me, my girlfriend, and like 2 other girls. And they were carrying a cake because they got a cake for me. We didn't even end up eating it, so we were carrying it. When the Uber driver pulls up, the Uber driver looks at us up and down, looks at my girlfriend, notices she's a dyke, and he is like, no, I can't have you guys in the car.
Oh, wow.
He's like, no, I can't have you guys in the car. And I'm like, why? And I'm like, why? And he's like, because of the cake. Like, I don't want you guys to like mess up my seats. Tinto, it was not about the cake. It wasn't about the cake. You can tell it had nothing to do with the cake. We're grown. We can hold a cake. It was really small.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with the cake. Like, you can tell, we can all tell. He's like, I don't want to mess up my seats because of the cake. And she's like, it's fucking cold outside and you want these girls to be sitting outside waiting for an Uber. She's like, the ride is literally 3 minutes. It's not that long of a ride. Just let us in, bro. Let us in, bro. And I'm like, it's okay. We just give him, like, to me, like, when I see racist people, homophobic people, like, that's their problem. They can deal with that with God. Like, the most I will do is give you 1 star and like report you after, but I'm not gonna like confront you in person, And also Canadians don't really act like this, So she's like, what the fuck, bro? And I'm like, so I approach her like, and I'm trying to pull her away from the Uber driver. I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
She has the cake in her hand at this time.
Oh,
she's like,
no.
Yeah, she has the cake in her hand. And she's like, you're really not going to let them in? She's like, well, fuck you, bro. Fuck you. The girl throws the cake at the Uber driver.
Oh, no.
She throws the cake at the Uber driver. She's like, fuck you. Like, literally about to fight this man. I pull her to the side. I'm like, you need to calm down. Everyone around us, everyone leaving the club is like looking at us. I'm so embarrassed. Mainly because like my sister is there, my friend is there. You don't know, like, and to me with homophobic people, you don't know if this man is crazy. You don't know if he has a gun. You don't know how homophobic he is. He could have shot us. You don't know. And the fact like that, like, you let your anger get the best of you because you can't control your emotions. Like, I lost it. And maybe because I had liquor in my system, I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, you don't talk to people like this. This is not how you, I'm like, we're not in the States right now. Like, we don't treat people like this. I was livid. I was so mad. I was like, we don't treat people like this. I'm like, we should have just walked away. We could have called another Uber. And she's like breathing really heavily. Like she's like going to do something. My friends are trying to calm her down. I'm like, you need to calm down. And like, she calms down. We go back to the B&B. We go into our room while like my friend Ella is in the living room, like sleeping. She starts crying, saying how like I didn't defend her. She starts crying and saying that like I should have stood up for her. Like I wasn't on her side. I wasn't supporting her. And I'm like, I don't support this. I don't support violence. Like I don't know how many times I have to like explained that. I'm like, I don't like reactions like this. I kept trying to tell you to like stop. I'm shaking, I'm scared. I'm like, I knew, like, and when she came to Canada, I knew she wasn't in the headspace to even be in this space. You just lost your grandma. Like, it's okay. You don't need to be doing all these things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, you're also in a completely different country. So like, I told her, I'm like, I know you had these things planned for my birthday, but like, if it gets too overwhelming for me, tell me, we'll cancel everything. We'll just spend time together. Like, it's okay. And like, again, it's like these external things. And I'm just like, we don't need to do all of that, because like now it's like overwhelming for you that like it's leading to this. And like the whole Uber ride back, she was like talking, like going on like a whole rant about how like he was racist and how like he like, and I'm telling you, it's not, I'm trying to tell her it's not okay. And like my friend Bella, she calls me the next day, like when I had time, like a little bit of time away. She's like, she's like, I'm really scared for you. Like the way she like rationalizes her behavior, like her high emotions, like it has me concerned that like she might end up doing that to you later on. Like, and I'm like, you're crazy, you're tripping. She's like, Nasim, listen to yourself. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, maybe, and like I've heard stories of women on this podcast, really smart women who have good head on their shoulders, who know better, who still end up in those situations. And I'm like, is it one of those situations where I'm just like continuing to like make excuses for them and like, you know, like rationalize their like behavior? And yeah, so she left. It just, yeah, the whole trip was kind of fucked up from that. I couldn't imagine that, because I also had the whole fight with the grandma situation in my mind.
Yep.
And I'm just like, this is not healthy. This is not healthy. And like, she didn't want to talk about these things. I'm like, this is a problem. I'm like, we need to find a therapist or I can't keep going on. So she said, when I go back to the States, we're going to start couples therapy. Like, I'm going to try everything to work on it. When she got back, she was like, I just like need a week. She kept pushing back this therapy thing. She thought I wasn't playing. Like, she thought I was just going to forget this. So like, she kept pushing back the therapy thing. A week goes by. Everything is good. Now this is December now. So I'm like, therapy, have you found a therapist? These are therapists I found. There's BetterHelp. All of these, they offer couples therapy as well. She wants to avoid it. She was saying how like, basically I'm trying to like make her feel like she's the bad guy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. But like, if for this to continue, like we need an outside party with no biases to like help us learn to like solve our problems. And she said, okay. And my exam season came up and I had to study again. She lost her mind. And that's when I broke up with her for the final time. I'm like, I can't do this. I have finals. I'm like, I can't do this. I ended up failing one of my classes. I have to I'm currently retaking it. I'm like, this is too much. I'm like, I can't do this. And the breakup, Tinto, was the most toxic breakup I've ever been to. I'm still so traumatized. She was calling me back to back to back. On Christmas Eve, she sent all my family Christmas gifts. And I'm like, why are you sending them Christmas gifts? And I think it was a way for her to still insert herself in my life. So for me to not explain to my family that we broke up. And I'm like, I'm not comfortable with this. I'll like reimburse you the money you spent. She's like, no, don't do that. She cried. And I'm like, I can't talk. She'll call me back to back to back. And I'm like, this is a lot. And then she's like, just tell me you don't love me anymore and I'll leave you alone. So I'm like, she's like, just tell me you don't love me anymore and I'll leave you alone. And I'm like, if I have to say that, so I'm like, okay. I'm like, I don't love you anymore. She pauses, starts wailing, crying. And I'm like, listen, like, I'm trying so hard. Like, this breakup, I know I ended it, but like, I'm having a very difficult time with this breakup. And this is not making it any easier. So I think it's best we go no contact for a while. So like we both have space to heal. She didn't like that at all. It wasn't even a week. She ends up messaging my friend a long paragraph. She's like, "Did you ever love me? Did you care about me? Please don't tell me I sent you this. I know it's pretty," like sending my friends messages now because she no longer has contact through me. And yeah, like it was a lot. Like I had to like, when she messaged my friend, that was like when I was just done. I blocked her on everything. I hit up her sister. I'm like, please, like, it was a lot. Like, I wish you could have seen how I was in December, Tinto. Like, I didn't even look recognizable. Like, I was so emotionally, like, beat down. And that, like, that's what, like, really prompted me to go on like a whole social media break, because I'm like, I don't want to enter this year in this energy, like. And it ended up like it was a lot. It was a lot. Like when I blocked her, she was emailing me, calling me on no caller ID. It was a lot. I didn't know. Like I started getting like actual like anxiety with my phone. Like you know the iMessage, the message on the bottom of your screen. I removed it because I didn't like, because I would. Every time I saw the number increasing, like if it said 35 messages and I saw 36, I would literally get anxiety.
Yep. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, all my notifications were like, I would get such panic attacks, like anything related to my phone because of that. And like, yeah, like it was just like a lot. And like to me, like I still felt bad. Like to this day, I still feel bad but also it's like, I can't, like, codependency for me, for anyone, is not healthy. I know there's some people who are okay with that dynamic, but for me, it's very emotionally overwhelming. And it's something that, like, it has never worked for me. It has never worked out for me. And, like, I tend to think, I don't know, it can work. And I guess that's why avoidance and anxious people tend to attract each other. It's that push and pull. But like it just like it never ends up working
in a good way. You know, it doesn't sound like it.
Unless there's really good communications or both parties are in therapy to work on those problems. And I was in therapy because I know my avoidant attachment style isn't healthy. Like I should be able to I shouldn't run away every single time like I'm emotionally overwhelmed. I should be able to like do those things. And I was very self-aware of those things, and that's why I was in therapy for it. But like I was the only one in therapy, and like I was the only one that like admitted to like my problems, if that made sense. Like I think so like me, while I'm trying to heal with the person that's unhealed, like I felt like it wasn't helping with my healing at all. I felt like it was really just making it worse, and I could see it through my grades, my content. I wasn't making anything. I wasn't posting anymore. I was getting anxiety just posting, anxiety asking for time alone, which is something I need. And yeah. Yeah. It was a lot.
You know, the lessons really do come alive, and I see exactly what you're talking about. And I'll just run through these as we close this out. First one is that never feel bad for choosing yourself, because unknown to you, she was choosing herself the whole time. Right? That I need Nazim to be a source of comfort for me. I needed to be a shoulder. She needs to be that person who I cry out to and lash out to when I'm having a bad day. So I totally get that. Never feel bad for choosing yourself, because twice now you have to choose yourself and say this was too much for you to handle, and now you're having to deal with the consequences of that through resitting your exams, which is already a lot of pressure on an individual to deal with, exam pressure. Number two, older doesn't always mean wiser. Emotional maturity doesn't come from age, but comes from confronting your problems and working on them. She clearly does have unresolved things that she brought to your relationship. And may also have been part of the reason why things may have failed with the previous one.
I really think that was the case. I think she just didn't know how to be alone. and like self-soothe. I think, yes, she didn't know how to self-soothe. And sometimes that's important. You can't put all of that in your partner. That's so much responsibility
it's
on
way
one
too
person.
Much. Way too much. And then don't fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Well, you fucked around and found out, didn't you?
I did.
Then he says, listen to your gut the first time. I remember when we started this conversation, you said something didn't quite feel right.
Mm-hmm.
So you felt it within your spirit already. Then you went on to say the evidence will reveal itself later. Those little problems in the beginning will always be the reason you end up leaving. And I think your story tells that quite well already.
Yeah.
Number 4, know your attachment style and the attachment style of your partner. It will go a very long way in the security of your relationship. The second part of that, knowing your attachment style and that of your partner, is that it goes a long way in the security of your relationship. You couldn't have said this any better. Because if there are two very different attachment styles that require separate things, if an attachment style requires you to be close to someone and the other person's is an attachment style that requires you to be away from someone, that rift and that difference is all the reason why it's going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way that you said it, to say it goes a very long way in the security of your relationship. And then number 5, you can't love someone you can't love someone when you don't love yourself. Oh yeah, too true. And you can't love someone else when they don't love themselves. Do I need to say anything more on that? I don't think so, do I? Based on your story. And then expectation is the killer of all joy. So I'm guessing you expected to have something really solid and fluid based on the first few lines that she sent you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the reality of it turned out to be quite the opposite, in that the things that she was now doing was what kept you away and repelled you the most.
And same for her. I felt like she probably had expectations that I would be this savior of her, or like this person that would drop things for her, and that wasn't.
It just never was.
Yeah.
Wow. So expectation is the killer of all joy. And then remove expectations from your relationships and take people as they are. Well, thanks, Nazim, for sharing that. Honestly,
Thank you.
You've kind of taken me back. I had an ex like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my early adulthood, in my early 20s, thereabouts, and it was a lot.
She probably had an anxious attachment style too, and
it was a lot. And then to add on to that, whenever she could tell that I was drifting away, she would threaten suicide.
Oh yeah.
So when you add that layer to it,
speaking of, I thought that's what was going to happen when she was calling me back to back. I'm like, what if this girl hurts herself? And that made me feel really, really bad and almost made me go back. So
it's a lot to put on someone. And people say, you must just walk away. It's not your problem if they decide to take their own life. But, they don't recognize the impact it would have on the person who remains alive. It's a lot of pressure. And for some, I know some people who've been put in situations like that. Somebody has threatened to kill themselves if they break up. They break up with them, the person killed himself. And then the person who did the breaking up ended up killing themselves too, because they couldn't take the pressure of knowing that this is what they were a part of.
It's emotional manipulation.
Yeah, it's a really delicate balance to strike. But thanks. You guys have been listening to another episode of The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and I look forward to catching you in next weekend's episode. Peace.
Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over. Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah. Love is a fire.